Hello, and welcome to another Scoutcast, the penultimate Scoutcast. As always, you are joined by me, Andy, FPL Mode, and we are also joined by Seb. How's it going, Seb? 36 weeks down, only 2 left.
Going all right, thank you. Me, not bad. Probably more like 32 or something for me, right? So, have I got to do another 4 at the end of the season? Just see if I can take that many weeks, maybe I can get back to a good rank. How about yourself?
Yeah, no, not too bad, thank you. No, it's all right. It's like I say, it just feels weird. We were talking before the stream started, saying that, it's just weird thinking there's only 2 weeks left, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It feels like we spend forever in that sort of like pre 10, 12 game week stage where you're like, it doesn't matter, it's fine, whatever rank you're on, it doesn't matter. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't matter because it's nearly over.
Yeah.
There's probably a sweet spot in the middle that we miss somewhere, but yeah.
It's like footy man, isn't it? It takes ages to get to Christmas, and then all of a sudden it's summer.
I do enjoy like one of the sort of like the I guess rhythms I get into when I'm playing is like you go transfer window to transfer window, don't you?
Yeah.
And like if you're ever playing like a big old weekend sesh, you're like, I can't possibly stop before a transfer window, and then the transfer window starts, and I've got to finish the transfer window.
Isn't it funny what a weekend session means now we're older compared to what it meant when we were younger? And we're also joined by Rich. How's it going, Flapjack?
Yeah, very well, very well. I've just been thinking today about Seb last season, how he said it doesn't matter if you make more transfers than your opponent. It's very unlikely you're going to have the same score. And that's exactly what separated us right now.
I know. Well, we're going to talk about that in literally a couple of seconds because people may have realised on the screen that our ranks are ridiculously close, and there is a reason for that, but I'm going to talk to you about that in a second. But before I do, I'm just want to talk to you about what we're going on to talk about tonight. So we're going to be looking at our points. We're going to be looking at all 3 of our points first. Then we're going to be looking at our points and how we've got on so far this week. There is the United Crystal Palace game going on at the moment. I say that, I mean, it's more like the United reserves based on the team that I've seen. But we'll see how they get on as we stream. Then we've got the Rate My Teams for goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders and forwards, because we do have a double game week for Game Week 37. We usually get it every year, maybe not next year, but we do have a double Game Week 37 to look forward to. So we're going to be talking about that and talking about which players you should be bringing in. We're going to be looking at our overs or unders, which is always great in a double game week because we have a bumper special with that just for the double game week players. Then we're going to be looking at our bus teams. We are going to be looking at the community team, which has edged ahead of all of us. A little bit of a sneak there, but we're going to talk to you about that one. I have had them in my DMs constantly this week. They are not leaving me alone. They're so excited. And then we're going to have a little bit of a Q&A to end with. So before we do anything else, have a look at this. So this is Flapjack. It's Flapjack, which is Rich, myself, Andy, and then we got Seb as well. And I believe this is taken from I don't know where this is taken from, actually. Is this from Game Week?
Yeah, it's FPL Game Week.
Yes, which is really good, by the way, if people don't use that. I use that every week. And it's showing what our points were this week, which Flappy's on 102, I'm on 103, Seb's on 116. And then what we're on totals. And we are all 3 of us on 2,336 points. So we are drawing with points going into this stream. Now, I'm saying that this is going to change very dramatically, very quickly, because somebody on this stream has got some bench jam, somebody on this stream has got somebody playing tonight, and somebody on this stream hasn't got anything going on tonight. So we've got a lot going on. But before we set up this stream, we all had the exact same amount of points. And Rich, do you want to explain very quickly why your rank is better than mine and Seb's, even though we're all on the same points?
So I believe it's like what I touched upon earlier and almost spoilt it all. Because we were talking about this last season, weren't we? When there was unlimited transfers.
Yeah.
Do you remember for the just after the World Cup? So I think it's transfers made, which surprises me that I've made the least transfers.
I want to look back at this and look to see, because I want to actually, I'm like Donald Trump. I mean, like, no, recount, please, recount, because I want to see where you've made least transfers. Is it
I've
like
done
wild card as well?
37. It's on your main, like when you go on your main page, pick team at the bottom right.
I've done 41. That minus 12 is.
So
I mean, to be fair, I probably came net up from the minus 12. So actually, I'm probably closer, not further away.
So mine must be 38, 39 then. But it is funny because last year you were mentioning, weren't you? And Seb was saying, what was it? Don't make that mistake again.
40.
Seb was saying it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's very unlikely it's going to make it.
And then it ended up in me being ahead of you, didn't it? And then this season, I've got my comeuppance. Yeah, we only had to wait a year, but I've got my comeuppance.
It's because I just hold players like Rico Lewis and Pedro, and
That's
doesn't
what it
matter if they
is.
don't play, just keep them.
So Rico has meant that you've won this year. Oh no, wait, there's
Well,
two more weeks yet, Rich.
Yeah, and a double.
Exactly. But no, we thought it was interesting anyway. So let's have a look at our points this week and see how we got on. So this is me this week. No bench jam for me, unfortunately. I had Petrovic with 6. Good move that was 2 weeks ago, getting Petrovic in for Neto. Very happy there. Gabriel with 7. Region, who's been an absolute hero for me in the last 4 or 5 weeks, getting me 8 points. Walker was my transfer in this week. He got me only 2 points. I brought him in for share. 2 points in Gavardio, obviously got his 6, which was, about how my season's gone for 50-50 calls. Then I had Gordon with 6, Son with 7. Gordon could have got another assist, but Isak missed his penalty. Saka, who's been a great hold for me, considering quite a lot of people sold him. He got me 10. Garnacho's playing tonight. Palmer got his customary 8 points, and then Isak with 7, and Haaland with 42 as my captain. My bench didn't really get anything, so I'm on 103 with Garnacho to play, and it's not looking great for United so far, but you never know. Garnacho could be good on the counter-attack. But I had a 7k green arrow up to 30k, but with auto subs now, with Bruno not playing, I mean, I'm seeing people getting Jackson, I'm seeing people getting Son, so I'm going to be on a small green unless Garnacho does anything, I think. So there you go. Rich, moving on to your points. You've got the lowest score this week until Richarlison comes on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've just seen auto subs have updated.
Oh.
But yeah, so I ended up doing a move this week. I did share to White, and obviously I was quite tempted not to do it, but in hindsight, I mean, Maguire ended up being injured and Porro up at no pointer, so that's 6 points off the bat. So Edison in goal, Gabriel, White, and Byrne. Foden, like you said, Richarlison's coming in for Fernandez. Palmer with 8, Son with 7, Jackson 16. I was quite happy with that one after last week.
I know.
Isak with 7, and then Haaland captain, obviously 42. One thing I will say is I'd actually put Richarlison's second sub as well. So there's been a knock-on effect of jam here, because I didn't expect Richarlison to start. And I got that right. He didn't start. So I'd actually put Maguire ahead of Richarlison. But Maguire's obviously got injured. Bruno Fernandes is in the squad. So Richarlison's come on after his 9-point cameo. So I'm going to be on 111, I think, after auto subs.
Nice. Really pleased for you, though. I've
not had really much jam this year. I've had Zabani come off the bench once, and I think that's been it.
It's recency bias, though, mate. I'm going to remember this all year, all summer. I'm going to remember this. It's like we only remember Seb's great moment with Callum Wilson because it happened at the end of the season.
I feel like we need to bury that now. I think that was like this week, a year ago, wasn't it? I think we're done with that now. I've had my time.
We're done with it. Are you telling us we're done with it?
It's the first thing I thought about when Wilson scored at the weekend as well. Seb last year, destroying us.
Brilliant. But no, good week from you though, mate. And what have you seen then, after auto subs, where you should be before this game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's people with Garnacho and stuff still playing, but up to 22k.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Take that. And Seb, lovely week from you. Talk us through it.
Yeah, clawed it back a little bit, Raya in goal was 6, Gabriel 7, Byrne 2, Vardiel 6. That was my transfer. Did Van Dijk to Vardiel. Van Dijk was, I think he played, didn't he? But he was flagged.
Yeah.
And I had to transfer it. It set my team up a little bit better. So I missed a week of Vardiel's points, unfortunately. But yeah, we talked about him a lot last week. So it felt fine to get him back. And I think it sets me up nicely. Very similar midfield to many other people. Son, Saka, Palmer, Foden. Haaland captain, just with everyone. So 42 points that basically make no difference to anyone. Isak with 7, and then Nicola Jackson, the guy who can't score goals, did do some goals and got some points, which is nice. Bench of Petrovic, Munoz, Sarabia, and Pedro Porro, which when we come on to teams later will probably be more of my problem. I know there's a few injuries around, but for someone who has a bench boost, I could probably do with a better bench to actually boost.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. We'll get there later, I guess.
I mean, Haaland, you say that. I think he was about 160%, wasn't he? EO. So
we did get. So it helped a little bit then.
Yeah, and there were people out there that went with Palmer. There were people out there that went with Foden, for instance. So there were a few people out there that didn't go with Haaland. I mean, I was going to ask you. I'll ask Rich first because we've just been to Seb. There's a few people in the community that obviously maybe had a bit of a poke at other people saying, it's Haaland. Why didn't you captain him? It was so obvious. Obviously in hindsight, I think obviously hindsight comes into this an awful lot because there were other captaincy, people that we could have captained this week, weren't there? I don't think it was all 100%, Haaland was going to be the one.
No, I completely agree. And I probably didn't enjoy it as much as I should have because I genuinely feel bad when a swing's that big.
Yeah.
On a captaincy, it does make it less enjoyable. Because there were, like you said, there was other good captains. Palmer was one. I mean, someone went for Saka. There was a few Salahs out there, and he ended up getting no bonus points. I mean, it just all fell in place of Haaland. And it reminded me, I've been on the wrong end of it most of last season when I kept captaining Salah instead of Haaland. So, yeah, I do feel like the level of swing, it makes it less enjoyable for me, especially when the EO is so high that you benefit very minimally.
Yeah.
Some people have spent weeks and weeks, grinding away, getting like 2-point green arrows over the field.
Yeah.
And then it's all taken away. So, I mean, it wasn't a no-brainer.
No, I don't think so at all. What do you think, Seb?
I mean, I think Rich has covered that. For me, I never considered going elsewhere, but I don't think that was me saying it wasn't a no-brainer. More just I had no brain engaged. So yeah, I mean, I don't have Salah either, right? Who probably would have been a decent shout. Did very well in any other week. Salah's haul is good, I think. I don't think there's anyone else in my team I would have captained. Haaland, I understand. Like if this was last season, maybe even 1-0 Elise apparently. So good.
I know.
Yeah, if this was like last season or maybe even earlier this season, I feel like maybe more people default to Haaland. I think you can be excused looking at what's happened recently with him and thinking, is there an edge to be gained by finding someone else here? And it's not like he's just come back to, in inverted commas, form, right? He's gone and put 4 goals in. So as Rich said, it's a tough swing if you didn't go for Haaland.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's that tough swing, really. And, Palmer was at home, he had a nice fixture. Saka was at home, he had a nice fixture. Haaland got 2 penalties, but then you backed the player that was obviously got penalties, but the other 2 did as well. Right, we're going to be looking at the next 4 positions then, because I'm not going to lie, people have been kind of ravaged by injuries at the moment, and people are making transfers all over the place. They're making goalkeeper transfers, they're making defender transfers, midfielders and forwards. So we want to look at all 4 and kind of think about which players are projected to score the most over this next 2 weeks, and mainly this week, especially with bench boost in mind. I think 81% of people in the top 100k haven't used their bench boost yet. So bench boost is going to be absolutely massive in Game Week 37, especially if you are in the top 100k, and people are going to be using transfers all over the place because they have to have a bench that's full. So when we're looking at Rate My Team for goalkeepers, top at the moment in terms of projected points is Vicario, which is quite interesting. Then it's Onana, who has literally just conceded Crystal Palace, Elise. Then we got Edison, Petrovic, Verbruggen, Pickford, Dubravka. So Pickford is actually ahead of Dubravka, which is quite interesting. Sarr, Raya, Becker. You're looking down this list. Obviously, you've got some of those double game week players in there. Seb, if I went to you first, a lot of people are going to be looking to try and make a goalkeeper move because they might already have, say, a Petrovic, but they need to get another goalkeeper to make sure that they've got another one on their bench boost. First of all, would you do that? Would you take a hit to make sure you've got a double keeper on your bench, or would you stick with a single double game week player or a single game week player? But if you were to make the move, who would you be going to out of all these players?
So that's me. I've got Petrovic, but then I have David Raya.
Yeah.
So looking at this, obviously the 4 points on average, obviously other appearance points and all that nonsense, but let's say it's 4 point difference. I need to be getting 7.79 if this was, a point prediction rather than a projection. There's no goalkeeper here, according to this model, that would deliver that. So in theory, I'm better off just holding Raya, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, that it's not deterministic. This is a range of probabilities. So I could profit from taking that hit. But I don't know, goalkeepers are not a position you'd normally take a hit for during the season or even use a transfer outside of dire scenarios. Yeah, doubles change it a bit, and we talk about the floor on goalkeepers often being quite high during doubles, but naturally with a high floor, there's probably a lower ceiling. So I'd be using my transfers elsewhere. And again, for me, I have 3 non-doublers on my bench and 1 free transfer. So I should probably be sorting all of them out before I sort out the goalkeeper. So I probably won't make that change. If I were... Oh, sorry, go on.
What if you had a non-playing goalkeeper? What if you had like a Kelleher?
Just nothing at all.
Yeah.
I mean, again, using this table I think is helpful for that. So then instead of me going Raya +4 doesn't get me enough points, You're then doing, 0 plus 4. Okay, fine. I get nicely into the comfy range here. There's a lot of goalkeepers here who don't double, of course. So you're looking to grab like your Petrovic, Edison, Onana, Vicario, according to this. I've got Petrovic already, and I think many, many people do. I know Rich has got Edison. I think the thing to look at is what happens in 38. Now, apologies, I've only done 37 here because I wanted to focus just on this double.
That's fine. Yeah.
But 38 obviously is worthwhile looking at too. Off the top of my head, when I've been looking at it, the teams that popped up for me were Brighton and Tottenham as like a double in 37 and an okay 38. There's a lot of teams that don't have both those things. So potentially I would say you're looking at your Brighton goalkeeper and your Tottenham goalkeeper. If you already have, obviously, one of them, go for the other, assuming you don't already have, say, triple Spurs. So potentially I'm pointing at Verbruggen because that gives you a better option in 38. Obviously, if you know you're going to play, not the Brighton goalkeeper, then just go for the higher score this week. Mate, if they conceded again.
No, it pains me because Brighton have got Man United last game of the season.
Oh,
so you're
right.
saying it's quite a nice little end of the season.
I mean,
thinking,
I'm not saying easy. I deliberately said the word okay, but when I was scanning earlier, there didn't seem that many teams that had like a double in 37 and a good 38. But I think that's what we want to target across all these positions.
Yeah. What do you think then, Rich? Because we won't go on goalkeepers for too long, but I know you love a goalkeeper. If you had, say, Petrovic already, who would be your second goalkeeper of choice?
I mean, it's kind of tricky right now because there's a few goalkeepers that just aren't nailed. Like we don't know if Dubravka or Pope is going to be the goalkeeper, and it could be a combination of both, couldn't it? You could have Dubravka for another game, and then Pope's back for the final two, for example. So you can't really go there. And then it also depends which teams. Some people are tripled up on teams already. So it kind of Onana fits quite well, despite obviously what's happening right now against Palace, despite the injuries, because you don't really want 3 Man United.
Yeah.
So I think that's why a lot of people are going there. And then obviously Vicario, he's absolutely nailed, and they do have good fixtures because they've obviously got Burnley and then City this week, and then Sheffield United in 38. But you're blocking better assets. Vicario. So, and then the Brighton goalkeepers, you can't rely on Verbruggen starting every single game either. So, kind of just falls. Onana, Onana's basically good because it doesn't block anything, and he exists. As in, he's gonna get some points,
and he does get saves as well. He does get save points. The only thing is, like we've just mentioned before, Maguire's obviously out, so they're playing Johnny Evans and Casemiro at centre back at the moment, and it's not inspiring confidence. The thing you would hope for, I mean, one of the fixtures is Arsenal anyway, which is obviously going to be tough. But what you'd hope for is that they take a lot of pot shots and you get some save points out of him. But I think goalkeeper's really tough. I genuinely and like Seb just said there, I don't think there's any goalkeeper here I could trust that taking a -4 hit, unless they're a non-playing one that you've got, and then I kind of get it. But otherwise, I don't think I'd be swapping a single game week goalkeeper that is going to play for a double game week goalkeeper. I just don't see it
for a hit.
Yeah.
No, but if your team is in good shape and you just have a spare transfer, let's say you've got a second transfer, you could either roll it into 38 or use it for free. I would in that scenario. Like I just would, just because of the power of the double with a goalkeeper. But I think you've got to be really, really careful where you go. And I guess Onana, I mean, he's got 2 of the worst possible fixtures, as in because they're playing Arsenal and they're playing Newcastle. Yeah. But at least it's at Old Trafford. Because, I mean, Arsenal and Newcastle scoring goals recently.
Big time.
Or throughout the season, to be fair to them.
Yeah.
But
So, all right, then.
Just wanted to, just before we moved on, jump in because I did say I mentioned 38. We don't have it on the screen.
Yeah.
So on the Scout website in the members area where this Rate My Team tool. Rate My Tool team. That's a different podcast.
Do it later.
Rate My Team tool.
Scoutcast after hours.
Why is Seb not here next week? Well, he's
still rating his tool.
Takes that long. Never mind. So yeah, looking at this for next week included as well. It doesn't change too much for goalkeepers. Vicario, Nana, Edison, Petrovic, all there still because of the double. The 2 that are highest rated next week are Raya and Allison. So I think, a lot of people probably do have Raya. I think you'll get more bang for your buck elsewhere, as Rich has kind of said. But just to confirm, if you've got Raya and any of the doublers this week, I think you'll fine leave goalkeepers alone.
Yeah, no, I do agree. So before we move off it then, I'm going to do this for each position. Seb, who's going to score more points as a goalkeeper in the double game week? Not in both, in the double game week.
So just 37?
Yes, just 37.
Edison, going to take a penalty and score it, mate.
Oh, Rich?
What? Who's going to get the most points?
Justin 37. This is the toughest position to call.
I mean, this is like throwing darts, but Petrovic.
Petrovic. Nice. Okay. Right. Sorry, I'm just watching and Crystal Palace absolutely destroy United. Right. Going on to defenders then. So, defenders at the moment, Pedro Porro. I see him top of everything. I cannot remember the last time we got any points. So, Pedro Porro is top.
I can.
With
He's got a goal for me, mate.
Shh. With 7.7. Then it's Romero, who is quite a drop, by the way. So Pedro Porro 7.7. Then Romero 6.42. Then Gvardiol is 5.77. And then a lot of these are in the 5. So Gvardiol, then Trippier, who we've got no idea whether he's going to be back. I doubt it. Emerson Royale, Van de Ven, Walker, Ruben, Dallo, Akanji, Dunk, Stones, Tarkovsky, Wan-Bissaka, Branthwaite, Burn, Ake, Livramento, Maguire, who shouldn't be there anymore because he is out. Hopefully he's going to be back for the FA Cup final, and Cucurella. Now, this does not inspire confidence, this list. Like, in no way does it inspire confidence, because Rich said just a minute ago with the goalkeepers, you don't want to be wasting a player for a team on a goalkeeper when you want, say, double attack, triple attack, whatever it is. Now, I'm looking at these and thinking most people already have Gvardiol, and they probably got 2 City attackers, which is what you want. Newcastle, you're going to want their attackers, not their defence. Man United, you don't want either. Spurs defensively are really tough as well. Seb, are we almost at a point now where we're thinking just no point bringing defenders in because they either get injured or they don't get any points anyway? And we're looking at it and thinking, are we really going to be using transfers in a double game week with a bench boost on defenders that we're not expecting to get points? And most of us are doing hits to do it anyway.
So I think I am. I've got Minos.
Oh, here we go.
And I think I can gain some points there. But I'm not sure who I would go for. This is where I was trying to find 38 and 37. This is the 37 list, which, like you say, Porro's pretty clear. I think that's probably a nice combination of minutes, fixtures, attacking potential, right? Because Trippier, obviously, minutes are massive concern there. Vardiel, still a bit of a minutes concern. And then all the rest have much lower attacking potential here. Probably Dallo, maybe the next best for attacking potential, but obviously, poorer defence, I think, than Tottenham's at least. So I think that's maybe why the choices seem quite thin here. The person who comes out top for 38, assuming he gets minutes, is Trent Alexander-Arnold, which probably isn't a massive surprise. His projected number is actually in the high 5s, so he would be similar to what someone like Vardiel and Trippier are projected just for 37. So if you have a Trent, or are maybe thinking about getting a Trent, maybe that's a shout. Maybe wait for 38 for that one. But yeah, other than someone like me who doesn't have... people have got defensive injuries, so maybe we're similar, but I don't have my defense particularly well set up for 37, and I think it's somewhere I could get a bench boost. You probably are better using your transfers further forward. If not, I think Tottenham maybe are your friends if you don't have double already, just because they also have an all right fixture in 38, I think.
I like how you said that with confidence then. It was like, Tottenham maybe? Rich, Seb has not sold it for me there at all. Are you going to sell it for me? Are you going to say... Oh, you are? Oh, go please go for
actually,
it. Because...
I'm not. No, the defenders, honestly, I don't want to be negative, but the defenders are trash. As in,
don't want to be negative.
I remember looking at this wild card a few weeks ago, and there were players like Gusto, maybe Dallo, whoever, that at least there was something exciting. But really, there's absolutely nothing. And I was hoping that Trippier would be back by now. And I think the latest is he's training in Dubai. He'd be in contention for the Brighton game in Gameweek 37. But it sounds far from positive. And I did see someone in the chat saying that, a lot of this bench boost is about defenders. But unfortunately, we can't just magic defenders, out of thin air. There literally aren't any. And that's why so many people wildcarded with 2 Arsenal defenders.
Yeah.
I wildcarded with 1 because I wanted to try and attack the double a bit more, inverted commas. But then ended up bringing a second Arsenal defender in last week because the defenders are that bad.
Yeah.
So... No, I'm really not going to be able to sell it because I think you'll be mad to do so.
Just on the bench boost, I'm very tempted to try next week. Now, other people will have, actual doublers on the bench this week, and I don't. But as you said, with the defenders, even if my bench is going to be 2 defenders potentially, kind of wondering if I can get more out of it next week.
What, as in wait for 38?
Yeah.
I think those of us who've wildcarded recently to plan for it, I don't think that would be wise, because as in if you've got the 2 goals,
if you've already got 2 fixtures, but I don't.
Yeah.
So it's like in my case, it's like, well, spend 4 points to get another fixture, or just try and get better singles next week potentially.
Yeah, but the eighth attacker looks really, really good. I know we'll get onto that in a minute. The eighth attackers look really, really good. And then at least you can have a playing second goalkeeper despite slacking them off.
I think that is the one thing I'll say against going game week 38 is that the eighth attacker in game week 37 looks so good. And actually, with the way defenders have gone recently, I don't even know what I'm expecting from my fourth, fifth defender in game week 38. Whereas I know that in game week 37, I'm expecting an awful lot from that eighth attacker. Like your eighth attacker could be like Nicholas Jackson or a Garnacho, whatever it is. And I think that looks a lot better than, say, having a fifth defender in 38. I don't know.
That's what's going to carry it. I think just with the defenders, I mean, I'm sure we'll get onto like Maguire replacements at some point, and Van Heck replacements. We're going to have to look in that. And I think you're just going to be hoping they get, 2 or 3 points.
Yeah.
And that will supplement, your eighth attacker getting 10.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned him very, very briefly just a minute ago, Rich. Gusto.
Yeah.
If you've got Gusto, what the hell do you do with him? He played 10 minutes, kind of just over 10 minutes at the weekend. Nobody thought he was going to be back, by the way. He was on the bench. He came in for about 10 minutes for Chalobah, so came on at right back. Chalobah could come into centre back because Thiago Silva, is he going to play both games? If not, Chalobah comes in, Gusto maybe plays right back. If you've got him, I've got him, I'm kind of leaning towards keeping him because he could potentially get you 110 minutes in the double.
I think, let's say you had 2 transfers and nothing to do, for example. Maybe then you could look at moving into a Newcastle defender. Although I don't think many are in that position because most people are tripled up already. But otherwise, I'll just keep him. I don't expect him to play more than one. But again, it goes back to just saying you're just going to hope this defender gets 2 or 3 points. Maybe you'll get lucky with a clean sheet. But
so another scenario then. What if you have Gusto, but you also have Petrovic and you also have Palmer? So it means it stops you from getting Jackson. Is that another reason to maybe get... is Jackson that needable this week to have to get rid of Gusto?
I'd want Jackson, but I wouldn't start moving Gusto. The thing is, you'll move Gusto to someone that's not much better. So it's not going to be worth doing a hit, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then who's your striker you're going to be selling? Because even if you've got like Pedro, for example, I guess he's the 4th choice.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to have Haaland, Isak, Jackson. If they don't have one of those, they've probably got Pedro. I wouldn't want to start messing around with that for hits.
Maybe a few Darwins floating around still.
Solankis. Darwin, yeah. maybe in that scenario, because Darwin, he's done some weird stuff today, hasn't he? He's deleted all his Liverpool photos on Instagram.
Really?
So they reckon, they reckon he was trying to download them all, but he missed the button.
But just, that would be an easy move, wouldn't it? To one of the other strikers. But in that scenario, you could just go Pedro, couldn't you?
We'll talk about Pedro in a minute, don't you worry. And Seb, before we move off this one then, there are people out there with Cher, there are people out there with Maguire, there are people out there with both of them, there's people out there with Van Hecker as well. All of a sudden, they don't have these players and they were looking for him for bench boosts, especially those people that potentially wildcarded. Now, if you had to move off of one of them and you were saying, I'm going to take a hit, I want one of them out because they're not going to play any minutes, who would you be moving to? Out of all of these defenders, who would you be thinking to yourself, they're going to get more points than anybody else in this double?
So I think it's still important to consider 38. Maybe you're benching this player, but it's still important to consider 38. And I think Liverpool and City were top there. So that would push City up in my estimations. So you've got your Vardiel there. The 2 Tottenham players are top. I think, assuming Trippier isn't fit, and we don't know he's fit because we obviously need that certainty, I think it's going to be between a City and a Tottenham. So if you don't have Vardiel, I'd go there. Then I'd probably go Pedro, Porro, maybe the other way around, between those 2.
Rich?
Just to touch on the budget ones, because I know Seb's, they're good picks, obviously.
Thanks, mate.
But I'm in that situation where I sold Cher last week. I've still got Maguire, so I need to get rid of Maguire. I haven't got any money to spend. I think you're going to be looking at the Newcastle defenders.
Yeah.
And it's like Livramento against Hull, and it all depends on Trippier. I was pretty set the other day thinking Livramento, he'll play right back, but if Trippier's back, he could play left back. But then I've had people suggest to me that why couldn't Hull just stay at left back? He's been playing quite well as well recently. Apparently both have been playing well. So That might end up just being a bit of a coin flip between Livramento and Hall. I think Hall's 0.2 more. Livramento's 4 million, Hall's 4.2. But at that point,
Worth
and where
noting,
we
Hall
said the
just off the
defenders,
bottom of this table as well. He was just below Cucurella, I think.
I guess it depends what the minutes are set, doesn't it, on here? But I think for their, if you can get a game or two games out of them in the double, I think they're pretty good value. But obviously, I appreciate a lot of people are blocked because they're already tripled up on Newcastle, and then you're probably looking at players like Webster.
Yeah.
And does he play both? Because he's 4.2 million as well, and their fixtures are awful.
Yeah, not great.
I mean, they've got Newcastle away, then Chelsea at home. It's grim.
Yeah.
Little shout for Dunk, maybe.
He's just very expensive because, yeah, I agree. He was one I looked at when I was wildcarding. Yeah, if you've got, I mean, I think he's 5.2 million?
Yeah.
5.2, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. Actually, it's not cheap, isn't it?
I mean, he'd be the best Brighton defender if you've got the money.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's really tough with defenders. Really, really tough. Moving on to midfielders, which actually, I think midfielders, it's unusual because we're probably going to talk about midfielders less than we're going to talk about all the others because you've got Palmer, Son, Foden, and there's someone else who I'm not thinking about, maybe Saka. They're kind of set in people's teams already anyway. So Palmer, Son, Foden, you're not going to move. And then it's people with, say, Gordon, Garnacho, KDB, Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
And it's most people are kind of set in midfield. So we probably won't talk about this as much. But in some cases, I'm looking at this and thinking there are players like, say, Maddison, who people have been asking me quite a lot about Maddison because obviously he's got the double game week, but he's been in and out of the team recently. Seb, if you had a Maddison right now, would you be moving him out for another player? Because he's got the double game week, but he's not getting the minutes at the moment, is he? So surely moving him out for a player, say, if you don't have a KDB or don't have a Bruno, it would be a good move.
That I think that's a really tough one because what I'm targeting for my own team this weekend is probably a Tottenham midfielder, most likely Richarlison or Brennan Johnson. But for that, we'd want some sort of lineup indication. And then hopefully that would give you a clue on Maddison as well. If Maddison were due to start, I think he's an entirely fine hold. He has seemed to have dropped off a bit recently, but then so have Spurs, right? Even Son playing up front hasn't been as good as we've seen recently. So I don't think he's massively far behind the other players in terms of potential points if he were to get 70 to 90 minutes per match. But if you don't get an indication, or you get an indication that suggests he's not going to start, I'd still wonder if you move sideways to other Spurs players, but you'd need that lineup info. So moving away from Tottenham feels a little tougher. And at that point, I think it's hard to answer because we need to know, in this imaginary team we're talking about, who you already have. Because like you say, I think Palmer, Son, one of De Bruyne or Foden, and then maybe some people have Saka or people replace that spot with like a Fernandes. That's probably 4 of everyone's 5 midfielders. The last spot is then, are you still holding Saka? Do you have another Spurs player? Did you double up on City? Something like that. I've got Sarabia, a holdover from when I wildcarded, but that's the spot that I would be moving to one of these players myself.
Yeah.
Oh, Gordon, I should say. Well, that's
you got like Gordon, Garnacho, I suppose, as well. I mean, Rich, Seb mentioned him there with Saka. He is comfortably, 20th on this table in terms of projected points for Game Week 37. Moving him out for, say, like a Foden seems no-brainer.
I wouldn't go as far as a no-brainer.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, no, I know because I know you've obviously got Saka, and I was actually thinking earlier that if I was like you and had Saka, what would I do?
He's been brilliant the last 2 weeks. Brilliant.
I mean, he has, and it's crazy. I mean, he was one I'd never have removed if it wasn't for the way the fixtures fell. But they have fallen like this, and you can even see from this we were really low on defenders and goalkeepers for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But there are just so many good midfielders you could pick. I think one thing I'd say is you would almost certainly want to buy Saka back in 38.
Yeah.
But the midfielders are so good, and a lot's going to now depend on Bruno. Like a lot of people said before the weekend that Bruno's he never missed a game injured.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. He's never missed a game, and he has missed it. So now I've heard people say, "Oh, we won't miss the weekend because Bruno never misses a game." But I mean, he's literally just missed one. So we need to wait for news on Bruno, because if you have Bruno and Saka, and Bruno's injured, you probably have no problem keeping Saka. Because when you start looking at hits to bring Saka out, when you're probably going to want him straight back in, it's not the wisest idea. I mean, I guess maybe if you're looking at Saka to Richarlison, Spurs have then got Sheffield United in 38, so maybe you wouldn't then go back to straight back to Saka. or you'd choose another route. You'd sell a different player for Saka in 38.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because it's not the best of fixtures. Like, it doesn't matter what United's defensive thing. To go to Old Trafford and for Saka to get a haul, I think is tough to envision, considering, you know, Foden could get a haul, Richarlison could get a haul in the double game week. They got 2 fixtures. So I think it's a tough one personally. I think if I had Saka, and I do have Saka, I think getting rid of him makes a lot of sense this week, especially if you don't have, say, a Foden or Bruno, something like that. But as soon as you start going a little bit further down that list, I think it becomes trickier, doesn't it?
I agree. You can look at 38 too much as well. Like, maybe we shouldn't think about 38 too much, because I think there's going to be a lot of bench headaches in 38. There could be random bench-ins. So maybe you just concentrate more on this week. I think it's just becomes dicey with Saka when you're looking at hits.
Yeah.
Beautifully, I was just about to reference 38. So, like the idiot I am, I'm going to steamroll forward and ignore Rich's sage point there. But it is a good point. There are twice as many fixtures available in 37 to 38. But again, maybe just because I'm focusing on my team here, through which the lens I'm trying to understand this. In 38, I think the sort of ideal, in inverted commas, midfield is probably Salah, Palmer, Son, Saka, and a Man City player. So whether that's De Bruyne or Foden, probably Foden, given you've just spent your money.
Don't think a second Spurs midfielder.
I think you'd rather have City over Spurs in 38. But I think that's where then people will diverge, right? You probably don't have Saka, you probably have the Spurs midfielder. So to go back to the question of, like, should Saka, if you sell him this week, should you be trying to get him back for 38? Yes, I think he's in that sort of optimal 5, but the player you've probably replaced him with, maybe a Spurs player, isn't that far behind. So I don't think the points differential makes sense for reversing it. So I think the choice is lose and keep lost, or just hold through. And that probably depends on your other priority transfers.
And last thing with midfielders I was going to mention as well, that kind of 4th to 5th midfield spot is quite spicy at the moment. There's quite a few little options coming up, and I was going to ask both of you to pick out of these 3, or another one if you have another one that you'd pick ahead of them. Gordon, Garnacho, Madueke. Who would you have out of those 3 if you were to pick a 5th midfielder? And it's got to be kind of budget-ish. Or would you pick somebody else? So, Seb, if I go to you first, because Madueke's done really well recently, and Chelsea, especially at home, I know they got 2 away fixtures now, which obviously makes it a little bit different, but he's been doing well and they've been scoring goals. Who would you have out of those 3, or would you pick someone else?
I think I'd go Gordon, but I want to give a shout to Pascal Gross as well. Who did he score yesterday?
I know we did, but then it got VAR'd off, yeah.
Right, okay, cool. So I think, just a little reminder that he's probably one of the best Brighton picks, just because of the minutes mess that a lot of the rest of their team is. And again, as mentioned, I think their fixtures are okay, very much underline okay, not brilliant. You can carry into 38. So Gordon, for me, out of the choices you presented. Garnacho, fine, absolutely fine as well. But I think Pascal Gross, someone will go Pascal Gross and potentially do quite well out of him, I think.
Rich?
So you're talking about midfielders under 7?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
Okay. So Richarlison.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that.
Well, I mean, I'm obviously
midfielders under 6.7. Let's go for that.
Okay, clever. I mean, I guess out of those 3, it's got to be Gordon. Yeah, out of those 3. I mean, I think if you were going to go Madueke, I think the time to do it was obviously in the double that's just gone.
Yeah.
Because I did look at wild cards that you didn't bench boost, as in, say you didn't have your bench boost in 37. I think Madueke then fit, back in 35. But Sterling was ill then, wasn't he? And I mean, I'm not saying Sterling's going to get his place back in the team, but there's still more competition, isn't there? So.
And I would as well, before we finish, like to give a shout out to Gianni as well, because he was on the FPL show and got asked, and oh god, 2-0.
What's happened? So at least say again.
Mateta. And he got asked who would be your differential for the next couple of weeks, and he picked Madueke when he was 0% owned. So fair play to him.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. Right, moving on to forwards now.
Does Seb look like Mo Salah tonight, or is it just me? No.
Mo Salah's in much better shape.
It's the curly hair. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of got my hair is.
It was a compliment.
Very, very much need a haircut.
Moving on to strikers. So in terms of their projections, Haaland is comfortably on top with 11.86, and 3 points lower than him is Isak, with Nicholas Jackson in third, Pedro, Højlund, Welbeck's up there, Callum Wilson, Solanke, and then it goes into the single game week players. Is it just as easy, Seb, as Haaland, Isak, Nicholas Jackson, the prime three? No point going away from those three. They're top of the projections here. They're probably going to be the template three going into this week as well. Do you just kind of give in to the template and say, yeah, that's where I need to go?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the only thing is when I saw Wilson and Isak starting together, if they start together, Isak tends to go left, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to verify that is actually what happened. He obviously got a penalty when Wilson was on the pitch, which is encouraging. Unless that, because last season that was the reverse, right? Wilson was on penalties. Unless they're just going to trade penalties, in which case, it's luck, right? You can't call that. So the only thing is if you think Wilson and Isak are going to start together, Wilson will start to take away some of Isak's promise. But I think, unlike in previous scenarios, especially because the penalty indication, I would have Isak comfortably ahead of Wilson at the moment. And so, yes, those are my players.
Yeah. Rich?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I did wonder because like Seb just said, I thought Wilson was on penalties, and obviously podcast he's done, he sounded like he's very selfish, and he wants the pens no matter what. But I do wonder if the Golden Boot played some way into it, because obviously that was before Haaland scored 4 goals later in the day, so Isak still had a chance at the Golden Boot. But yeah, I think that's the obvious three. I mean, just on like Pedro, because I know we spoke about him very briefly earlier. Like if I owned him, I probably wouldn't start, because transfers are quite precious right now. I wouldn't start moving him to Jackson. I don't think. Yeah. I think I would still stick with Pedro, even though Brighton have not scored many goals.
So what if you were someone like me, who's already got triple Chelsea and doesn't have Nicholas Jackson? If you can't get to Nicholas Jackson, who would be your pick out of, say, Pedro, Højlund, Callum Wilson? Because I've been looking at it quite a bit, and I love Pedro because he's the only one that's on penalties out of the rest of them. And obviously he's got double game week. But Brighton are genuinely quite bad at the moment in terms of attacking and, defensively they obviously kept a clean sheet against Villa. But Højlund, there's no real form and nobody's feeding him. So Højlund seems a hard bet in the double game week. Callum Wilson, though, scoring a lot of goals. And like Seb just said, he could start taking a bit of promise away from Isak. So could he be a shout? If you had to pick between anybody that was not Nicholas Jackson, who would it be?
Have you got 3 Man City?
Not yet, no.
No, because obviously the early kickoff this week, it's City Fulham, isn't it? Man City Fulham.
Yeah.
So if we found out, let's just say Alvarez was starting, and this is probably very, very risky, and you've only got one transfer. It's not the worst move in the world, because you're punting on Wilson's minutes as well if you go there.
Yeah, true. I don't think
I'll probably be
punting on Pedro and Højlund though. They definitely get the minutes, wouldn't they?
I wouldn't even say that with Pedro anymore. The team looked a bit more normal the other week, didn't it? As in this week just gone. Yeah. But the week before there was O'Mahony or someone started up front. So then Pedro was on the left. I think I'd punt on Wilson, like in your scenario. But I just think there is a little bit of minutes risk there.
Interesting. What about you, Seb? Which way would you go?
I'll bring the 38 angle in again. Probably just get like Watkins or something, don't you? As in, like, if we're not sure about 37 and for whatever reason you can't get any of the optimal doublers, I think you look to 38 as well, just to continue to undermine.
There are just on that. There's a lot of bench headaches in 38 because we just talked about the template front line, which I've got either Jackson, Isak, Haaland. Going into 38, probably going to have to bench Isak.
Yeah.
So
bench boost.
Maybe on that strategy, yeah, you would be thinking more about 38, but...
Well, all right then. So what if you have a good striker already? Say like a Watkins or, I don't know, Solanke or... I got Morris, for instance. If you already have one of those who have like good fixtures, like Morris has got West Ham at home. West Ham are awful at the moment, and it's just been said that David Moyes is leaving at the end of the season. Do you just keep them then instead of getting, say, a Pedro, a Højlund, a Callum Wilson?
To do that really basic and not entirely reliable maths based on what we're looking at here, if you have Morris at 3.62 and you spend 4 points to get Jackson, well, you just miss out. But Isak and Haaland, yes, apparently you should do it. Again, these numbers, you shouldn't do just that maths. You should take much more into consideration. But this model, for example, presumably would not suggest that move unless it was to get Isak or Haaland.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the overs or unders then. So we've got 8 players here. And Seb, have you got the how you guys have gotten on in the last couple of weeks?
Sorry, mate, you're breaking up there. I just can't.
Oh no, it's my reception, isn't it?
I think this is my long hair. It's covering over and under my ears.
It's your
over,
Mo
it's over
Salah
my
hair.
ears.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone agreed with me there, by the way. It was
No.
just
I don't think anyone. Oh, I didn't check, but I'm going to assume no.
I was looking at my
Based
second
on the
monitor
fact
and
that
I
I don't
just
think I
thought,
look like
oh, why is there a picture of Mo Salah? And it was you. So that's what threw me.
Oh, he's a fine-looking man. I will take it.
Amazing. Yeah, you wouldn't mind his body, would you? Right. So we've got 8 players.
Rate is tall.
Yeah. We've got 8 players here then, all with double game weeks. And we want to know what you think they're going to score over the 2 weeks. People in the chat, make sure you chuck in what you think they're going to do as well. So we got Nicholas Jackson up first. He's got Nottingham Forest away, Brighton and Hove Albion away. 14.5 I've given him. Now, I was a little bit conservative because they are 2 away fixtures as well. And obviously, they've been doing very well at home recently. So what do you think, Seb? 14.5 points for Nicholas Jackson over the double game week.
It feels a tiny bit high, but what's he just got, like 16?
16, yeah.
Yeah, so put that performance in and you're fine, right? But that was it a goal and 2 assists or something like that? I will go optimistically over. If I recall, I mean, I know what the model just said because I know Haaland was the highest on 11, but there's a difference between the projection and us just, trying to make an over or under gambling prediction. I will go over because I think if he were to go off in one of those matches, then because of bonus and all that sort of stuff, then he'll end up over.
Yeah, Rich.
I swear last week you had Jackson about this level for 3 fixtures and then laughed at us for going over. No, you've taken a fixture away.
Well, if nobody's keeping track of these scores, then I don't know, mate.
It won't take me long to check. But I'm going to go under, and the reason I'm going to go under is there was something shared on Twitter the other day about Newcastle. I know he doesn't play for Newcastle, but about Newcastle away from home.
Yeah.
And in that same data, it showed how good Chelsea were at home.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think we've seen that recently as well. So just that's what I'm going with. They got 2 away games. I mean, admittedly, it's Forest and Brighton, but yeah, I'm gonna go under.
Quite an interesting one next. I've got Gusto up next. Forest away, Brighton away, obviously. I've got this 3.5 points.
It's not that interesting, is it?
It is quite interesting.
I mean, 3.5 is a start and a bench appearance with nothing else, right? Like
exactly.
If he only comes off, if he comes off the bench twice, he's probably not getting that. So, but then if he starts, he probably does much better. So,
I thought it was an interesting one. 3.5.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think 3.5 looks 3.5 looks hilariously low. But if you change the question to like over or under 120 minutes, that with no clean sheet, that could equal about 3.5. So, I will go over just because I think if he's ready to start, he smashes that. Because just 2 starts, 4 points is easy, right? But yeah, it's a minutes question, not a points projection question, I think, really.
Rich?
I'll take it back. It is interesting.
Thank you.
Because it's difficult.
Thank you.
I'm going to go under. I think he's going to play 1. I'm going to go under. But I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. You know how this game is. That if he puts up double digits and everyone in free hitting 34 is doing laps around the pitch again. But
cool.
I wouldn't sell. That's the key thing. But I mean, nothing would surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if he got 1 point.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if he got 12 to 15. But yeah.
Speaking of hauls, Anthony Gordon's up next, my little man crush. He's got 12.5 points projection there. He's got Brighton and Hove Albion at home and then Man United away. What do you think, Rich? We're going to have to speed these up a little bit because I have got 8, unfortunately. So what do you think, Rich?
1 home game, under.
Under. Ooh, Seb?
Under.
Under as well. Oh, you're killing me, boys. Next, we got Dan Burn up as well. Brighton and then Man United, obviously. I've got my 7.5. What do you think, Seb?
I hope for over, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't keep a clean sheet in either. If Bruno's available for Man United, so under.
Under. Rich?
Yeah, I mean, I like Newcastle defenders for this double, but I'm still going to go under. That's how bad the defenders are.
I know. Son is up next, 12.5. He is flattered to deceive recently in terms of his point returns, but how he's actually looked. But obviously that's what you get for somebody being on penalties as well. 12.5, Burnley at home, Man City at home. So 2 home fixtures. What do you think, Seb?
So my instinct is, oh, it's all about the Burnley match, but it's Spurs Man City. I know exactly what's going to happen. He'll blank in Burnley and then get 2 in Man City
yeah.
and go over, right? I think sensibly I would predict under, because he's got to get it in the Burnley match, and I've not been that impressed by, I don't think anyone has, right, by Spurs or Son recently. But Son scoring against Man City is just so Son things, so Man City things. So I will go over purely based on that nonsense divination.
Yeah, Rich?
I vividly remember Spurs destroying Burnley early in the season, although it was still sunny back then. I'm going to go. I'm going to go out.
Nice.
I'm going to go out. Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. I'm going to go over.
Nice. What about Porro then? I've already given him 7.5 projection. Burnley at home, Man City at home. What do you think, Rich?
Sorry.
Sorry, I try and alternate, Seb. Sorry.
Do you know, I avoided him for so long. I only just bought him wild card. I don't know. I'm going to go under. I'm going to go under.
Yeah, that's fine. Seb?
Star defender for our FPL teams.
I think, so like, he might be the only player on this entire list who the model projected to get over, right? Was he like 7.7?
Yeah.
And this is 7.5. So I feel like I have to say over. But unlike Son, you know, the logic where I think they actually will do better against Man City than Burnley somehow, that doesn't really apply for the defenders, because I think City will score probably many goals against them. If Burnley score, then I think Porro's going to have a tough time getting over 7.5. He's obviously needing an attacking return. But I will go over because I'm a slave to that model.
He could be over after the Burnley game and end up under after the City game.
Right, we got KDB up next, 14.5. He's got Fulham away, Spurs away. I mean, Seb's just said it. They could score many, many goals against Spurs. So what do you think, Seb? Over or under 14.5?
Again, probably more minutes than anything else, right? I think Foden and him are interesting. If it weren't for the big price difference, I think we'd be split between De Bruyne and Foden in our teams. I'm going to go under just because I think he might get minutes managed. Depends how the title's looking and how matches are playing out. But I think he's very likely to get minutes managed more than, say, other Man City players. So I will go just under because of that.
Yeah. Rich?
Yeah, I mean, I think he starts both, but they're both away. And I expect Foden to start both too. So, yeah, I'm gonna go under, but who knows with De Bruyne? He's one of the most unpredictable players there is.
Yeah, it really is at the moment. And then Dallow's up next. Now, this seems quite high considering what's happening tonight. But I've got him as
it seems quite high regardless. Not just
all right. So I've got him as 7.5. He's got Arsenal at home, Newcastle at home. Now, Rich alluded to this earlier, that those two teams he's playing against are in very rich veins of form at the moment in terms of attacking intent. So what do you think, Rich? Over or under 7.5? I know what you're going to do.
It depends if Seb owns him or not.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. If I don't think he does own him, so I'm going to go under. But if Seb bought him, he's going for 30 plus.
What do you think, Seb?
I think 7.5 was very generous here, right? You not got that long way around with Gusto.
No.
Yeah, I think under. Unfortunately, I don't think they keep a clean sheet, and so you're relying on attacking returns. But one assist might still only get him to about 7.
Oh, right, lovely stuff. Right, let's have a look at our teams then. So this is my best team at the moment. Right, I'm going to say this now because I've been very unlucky with injuries. I had Gusto, I had a doggy I brought in Cher last week. So I've used 3 transfers on defenders that have all got injured. So my transfers have just been a bit out of it because of that. Obviously, I took a -12 2 weeks ago and I brought Walker in this week. So I should be better off than I am, but there you go. So I got Petrovic, I got Gabriel, Reguilon, Walker. Then I've got Gordon, Son, Saka, Garnacho, Palmer with Isak and Haaland up front. I've got Areola, Morris, Zabani and Gusto on the bench. So at the moment, I'm pretty sure I'm doing Saka to Foden because I can't go into this double game week without Foden. So pretty sure I'm doing Saka to Foden, and then it will probably be Morris to somebody. Callum Wilson, maybe, because I can't get Jackson unless I lose Gusto. So, yeah, I'm not feeling great about this bench boost, to be perfectly honest. I'd feel like I could take loads of hits and I could take a -16 and maybe be a little bit happy. But, yeah, I'm not feeling it, if I'm perfectly honest.
No, I mean, I guess your strategy was very, very different to a lot of people's. And I mean, I'd say it's worked. I mean, you didn't free hit in 29, for example. Mm-hmm. But I guess the one thing you were sacrificing was being able to pick your bench boost ahead of time, and you've been unlucky with injuries. But I don't think your bench boost is going to be that much worse than others. I guess it's just the doubling keepers and that 8 attacker,
And
because you probably blocked yourself from one of the better ones.
my wild card, I brought players in thinking about this bench boost. You know, like for instance, Udogie came in that week and players like that, and I was thinking, I've got these players ready for that, and they just all got injured. Brought Cher in last week, and it's
even those of us who've wildcarded have noticed that. So,
but it's those 50-50 calls where like the people that went Porro instead of Udogie, the people that went Bird instead of Cher, the people that, you know, all of a sudden that's like 2 or 3 extra transfers that you're having to use, and it's the value of a transfer is kind of really being shown now, isn't it? But I'm just looking now and thinking, I'm almost quite tempted to just take a -4 and just bench boost with what I've got. So bench boost with Morris, who's got an okay fixture. Bench boost with Areola, who's got an okay fixture. I know they're playing against each other, but that is what it is. Zabarnyi, if Bournemouth and Brentford finish 0-0, I'll be loving life. And it's just, I'm just looking at it and thinking I might just keep it like that and just go with it and just only take a -4 bench boost, because there's no real defenders I'm going to want to move to, and it's all my defenders that are the single game weekers. So as long as I've got 8 attacking players with double game weeks, I think I'll be all right.
You'll outscore people without bench boost. Well, unless you get like a Region situation. You know?
Exactly. So yeah, I'm quite unenthused by this, but I think that's just because of all the hits that have got me to here, if that makes sense. So
maybe Seb would convince you on his 38 idea.
Yeah, I've looked at it. I have looked at it, but I think it's that 8th attacker. Having that 8th attacker is actually really nice in this double game week. Let's move on to your team, Rich. We've gone through my depressing one. Go on to yours.
Yeah. Oh, I've got to load mine up actually. I mean, I haven't been stung by injuries as much as you, but to be fair, I've had a few, considering I've only just well, because obviously I did share to Ben White this week, so I've only got one transfer, and obviously I'm glad I did that move now, and now I've got flags on Maguire and Fernandez. Problem with Maguire is I have nothing in the bank, so Maguire obviously on bench boost is going to have to become Livramento or Hall, possibly Webster, although Brighton fans aren't. It's not 100% that he starts. He starts both, and the Brighton fixtures are bad, so I'm going to punt on Livramento or Hall, and just not expect very much. So my bench boost would basically be Petrovic, a doubling keeper. I'll have a Livramento or Hall, so a doubling Newcastle defender. I'll have Richarlison and Ben White as well.
Richarlison's nice.
So, I'm really excited about Richarlison, as you know, I mentioned a few times. And can we just really quickly touch on, actually, there was Ange did an interview midweek last week. I think it was Wednesday. Yeah. Before the Chelsea game, and he suggested Richarlison can only start one of the Chelsea game or the Liverpool game. So it's why I've second benched him. And obviously I got lucky him coming off, because it looked like he was going to be benched in the game yesterday. And obviously the best thing happened. He came on and made a massive impact. I say that when they're 4-0 down, but still.
They look so much better with him, though. They look so much better with him. Yeah.
Complete opposite of the Chelsea game, where he was anonymous. So yeah, he's a punt that I'm looking forward to, but it's not going to be that exciting. There's no good defenders. I'm going to bring in a Newcastle defender. I guess one problem with my whole plan was, going Maguire, I left myself very vulnerable if he did get injured.
Yeah. It's really interesting to look at Pedro Porro in your team, and you keep mentioning obviously Porro's got Sheffield United in game week 38. He's the one player I'm looking at and thinking I could take a hit and get him, and then know that I've got him for 38 as well.
He might be worth it. There's an interesting dynamic I keep seeing, because obviously in 38, a lot of people have got 2 Arsenal defenders. You're going to play them at home to Everton. Porro, you're going to play against Sheffield United. Yeah. So if you then got Gvardiol, you've got Walker, haven't you? Yeah. So I guess you wouldn't want to force yourself. You've only got one Arsenal defender though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That was creepy. No, there is that scenario that's coming. I mean, Seb, looking at your team here. You're obviously not bench boosting this week because you're doing it in 38.
I mean, that kind of feels likely, because I've got. I'll go through the team. So
you know what's going to happen in 38 now. Seb rises to top 1k.
I don't know where this I don't know where this confidence in my jamminess has come from, but I'm all here for it. I just don't believe in it.
We've seen it enough, Seb. We know. We've got faith in you.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. So yeah, the team is all doublers apart from Saka in the 11. So Petrovic, Pedro Porro, Burn, Vardiel, Son, Saka, Palmer vice captain, Foden, Haaland captain at the moment, Isak and Nicola Jackson. Very similar to a lot of other people, I'd imagine. Apart from I'm one short of a full 11 of doublers. That is then obviously where one of my transfers could go. So I've got a bench of Raya, Munoz, Sarabia, and Gabriel. Raya and Gabriel, great for 38. And I think this probably shows why I've been thinking about 38 quite a lot tonight. I think my team looks all right for 38, maybe even slightly better than some of the people who were bench boosting this week because of their injuries and stuff. The only way I finish like above, say, Rich or someone who's had a similar strategy is by getting lucky with these injuries. So Rich has got to spend transfers on injuries to get his bench boost to work. If I want to try and play against that, I guess I've got to try and go for 38. So I think a player someone like Rich would struggle to get is Salah or Trent. So I'm wondering if I should try and have a 38 team that has Salah and Trent in and still has maybe Saka. Something like that. I could do Sarabia to Salah and who was the defender? Munoz to like Livramento for one transfer this week, one transfer next week. And I think it would leave me with like 0.2 in the bank. So a little bit of wiggle room. Obviously, that's not Trent. Something like that is probably what I'm looking at for 38. If I wanted a bench boost in 37, I'd probably get Richarlison instead for Sarabia. Mm-hmm. And then maybe look at that defender, Munoz take a hit. Would that maybe be a Brighton defender or something like that? Hence looking at Brighton and Tottenham earlier. So I think those are my two routes. My only real shot at finishing top out of the three of us, I think, is doing something that you can't do in 38 without spending a bunch of points.
Yeah, I like it. I think we're all looking good. I think the other thing I should say about my team, by the way, is I'm on a stag do in Portugal this weekend from Friday, and the deadline is Saturday morning. So I've got to somehow make sure I get up on Saturday morning, get all the information. I'm on a beer bike at 11 o'clock, and the deadline is 11 o'clock. So this is going to be very... Good. And I'm best man as well. So this is going to be very, very interesting for me. But
in my experience, that normally goes great. Too much thinking in FPL is a curse.
Oh, yeah. You wait. I'm going to be on a minus 16, full 15 double game weekers.
This beer bike.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Going to be loving life. Speaking about needing to get drunk, Com team. Boys, we're in trouble. We're in a lot of trouble. So they are on 104 so far this week. They had Petrovic, Gvardiol, Gabriel, and Maguire, who's not going to play. So Porro comes in for 0. Whee! Then Bruno Fernandes, who obviously isn't playing. So Gordon comes in. So they go up to 110. They had Son, Foden, Palmer, Haaland captain, Jackson, and Isak. They have gone up to 20k in overall rank. Oh dear. So what could happen here is that they could log in and all of a sudden find that their team's been deleted. Which would be quite funny, I think, wouldn't it? Like, could you imagine getting a 37 and then, your team's been deleted? Unlucky, guys. So, yeah, we'll see.
You're not allowed to have multiple teams, are you? I think someone should raise this to...
Exactly. Yeah. So, FPL Rank Chaser, who's been heading this up most of the year, you shouldn't have multiple teams, my friend. So you've either got to delete your team or the Com team. You've got to pick. You can't have both. It's disgusting. But no, well done to the Com team. You've smashed it all year. And you're about to see a different side to me because you basically won already. So well done. You cannot lose from this position. So well done. No pressure on you whatsoever. I hope your little paradise in your little group chat starts to crumble around you. All right? But enjoy. It'll only be this week, and next week on the Bench Boost, we'll absolutely thrash you. So, but well done. Keep it up, guys. Right, let's have a little bit of a Q&A now then, so I can go onto the YouTube stream and I can actually look at the the stream, because I haven't looked at this all evening. Got no idea how many people are watching. Absolutely no idea whatsoever. So, if you've got any questions, chuck us in and we will answer as many as possible in about the next 5 minutes. Second half has just kicked off. It's still 2-0 to Palace. Anyway, Paulo Suarez, who does sound Portuguese, says, I know that beer bike. Yeah, we're going to Lisbon, so if you're there, give us a shout. Michael Scott, great Scott, says, is it worth a -4 on Havertz to Richarlison and in 38 go Gordon back to Havertz? So would you do, Seb, Havertz to Richarlison for a hit?
Potentially. That's similar to the Saka one, right? I guess Havertz obviously a lesser potential than Saka, and I think we said we would do Saka, but then we wouldn't reverse it. So I guess, yes, I would do that, but I wouldn't reverse it. And I know there was another part to that.
Yeah. Rich?
Yeah, I mean, the route's quite interesting, isn't it? Because you're then selling Gordon 38, who I think a lot of people may end up benching him that game, and you're bringing in Havertz. Yeah, I do quite like it. I mean, I know I've been quite high on Richarlison, but maybe I need to calm myself down a bit on it as well. Like, probably best case, we're looking at, 100 minutes in the double for Richarlison. You'd think maybe a 70 and a 30.
Yeah,
But then you do get the Sheffield, you do get the Sheffield United game.
Exactly. Yeah.
You'd hope in 38. So, yeah, I do quite like it. I mean, I don't think it's like a no-brainer though.
Yeah.
I think it's a no-brainer at all.
Tiger saying, "Come dine with me" vibes there. Yeah. Well done. I hope you're happy with your sad little lives. FPL Rank Chaser says, "Cheers for the shout out, Andy. The com team is around 120k places higher than my own team, so I'll stick with the com team." Well done, mate. Take one for the team. I like it. Andrew Shearer says, "Would you sell Mateta for Jackson, Rich?"
Yes. I don't know why I paused there. I was just thinking about Mateta.
Yeah. Seb Roynish says, "Do I sell Trent for Porro?"
See, Trent is one of the best options in the final week. So if I try and take my 38-week bias classes off, which I obviously have, that sounds like a pretty decent move, especially if for some reason we find out Trent isn't starting. But bear in mind that in the final week, you might want Trent again. But I think Pedro Porro, Sheffield United isn't in the last week, so you'll probably do well out of him in the final week too. So yes, you might be selling the best defender, but I think you'll gain more points.
Yeah. Paulo Suarez says, "Is it by the river? Is it? I usually run there." It is by the river that I'm getting the beer bike, so I'll see you there, Paulo. Rob Jones says, "Who's the best Maguire replacement? He's already got Gabriel, Byrne, Porro and Walker." This is for Bench Boost 37. So if you have a look back, Rob, we did talk about this a bit earlier, but Rich, just remind us who you would go for as Maguire replacement.
I mean, assuming he's not got 3 Newcastle, and to be honest, I'm quite aware there is a lot of people that are already tripled up. I think it's Livramento or Hall. If you're already tripled up on Newcastle, it's pretty bleak. I mean, you might have to look at a Brighton defender like Webster or that Barco guy who didn't start at the weekend, and I've pretty butchered his name there. It's bleak.
Yeah. Seb?
I think Rich has answered that. Lovely. I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, lovely. Is it? Colm says, "Is it worth captaining Foden for Haaland, Seb?" We haven't spoken about captains actually. Is it just Haaland for you?
For me, again, pending any news that we may get, which obviously would change this a lot, I don't see why you'd go Foden over Haaland unless you're trying to nail that week that Foden outscores Haaland because you need a big rank jump. But 7 times out of 10, you'll get a bigger rank drop out of that, I would think. And, just look at last week. Or imagine you'd made that decision last week. Extreme outcome, but I think, the expected outcome is Haaland to outscore Foden. So no, unless we get a lineup leak, if you're captaining a City player, I think you're going Haaland.
Rich?
I mean, it's another week where we've seen the power of penalties, isn't it? Well, I know we get accused of talking about them too much, but that's why Haaland did so well, because he took 2 penalties. And we are filling our teams with a lot of non-penalty takers at the moment. I do think, even just ignoring what happened last week, I think Haaland is the standout captain. If I was going to go away from him, I probably wouldn't go for Foden. I'd probably look at like Palmer or Son. I wouldn't really look away from Haaland, to be honest.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Right. Thank you so much for everybody in the chat. We do appreciate you being in there. I've seen a few people from the community team that are in there as well. Do appreciate you obviously being there. Seb, thank you so much for joining us.
You said that so like I do appreciate you being here. Yeah.
You wait till next year. If they beat us this year, I'm not going to have any nice words to say about them next year. Seb, thank you so much for joining us this evening, my man. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thanks very much for having me. I did indeed. I think it helped. It helped me sort of look at what I might do with my team. So I hope it did the same for others.
Yeah, me too, man. And Rich, thank you very much for joining us as well, my man.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good fun. Good fun. Sad that it's going to be Game Week 38 coming up.
I know.
Literally, that'll be next week, won't it?
And we did our pre-season predictions as well, so I will bring those back up.
Oh, did we?
We did indeed for Game Week 38.
Haaland got a big injury, didn't he? I'm really interested to see what we'd said about that.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to that. So
it must have gone better than the ones. Must have gone better than the ones I did for Fantasy Football Scout, where I said Maddison would be a bust. Although I guess technically he has.
There's 1 or 2 really good ones in there. Let me warn you of that now.
As in funny.
Yeah. Right. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. We will see you again next week for the final Scoutcast of the year. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope all your arrows are green with just 2 weeks left. Bye-bye.